We do a lot of work across the world on pensions. We're expanding the coverage. We're working in countries with billions of people. There's an amazing breakthrough on financial inclusion, and the two never talk to each other. And it feels like there's a great opportunity to bring those together. For you?
Well, for me, I think it's partly the same, but also because I find that a lot of the countries that are beginning to think about this issue somehow are not terribly clear about what the importance of some of the decisions that they're taking today will be a few years down the line.
So the book has country chapters, thematic chapters. Why is that?
Well, I think at one level there is a need for countries to do a deep introspection and perhaps this is an opportunity for policymakers and regulators to sort of look within and see where they stand, where they think they're headed, what are the buttons to push to get from here to there. Equally, I think country chapters will be important when experiences of one country are going to be observed by, let's say, policymakers from other countries, and who are going to look at what other countries are doing and perhaps learn as much from new ideas and new initiatives and innovations as they are going to learn from mistakes that other countries might have made. I think that's a key part.
No, we had this idea that you wanted, for the 15 countries that are there, they can tell their story. But you want someone who's not in that country to see someone who's a bit like them. Are they a large, complicated country? Are they a tiny island? True. Are they less developed? Are they middle income? And you can look at someone who feels and looks a bit like you and think, yeah, actually, they had a ton of problems and they got through them. They may not all be finished, but they're kind of moving in the right direction.
Absolutely.
From your point of view, how was it to identify people and get them on board?
Well, I think partly it was, I think, just 6 degrees, and these were good people we knew in countries, and as much, I think you knew a lot of the authors already. And I think it was just connecting the dots between issues that we thought were important, countries that we thought were interesting and relevant, and people who we thought had just the right amount of experience and wisdom in this area.
Yeah. No, for me, actually, it's one of the best things about it. I think we got? Probably close to 50 authors, and I think we made 51 calls and we only got one no.
Yes.
And people were amazingly generous with their time. And it goes back to the first answer, really. Why are we doing it now? That I think a lot of people can see that there's just this incredible opportunity, but something is not quite happening to get people to understand it, to get people to push it. So it was it's actually the easiest part of the whole project, just getting people to agree. So the big one. What do you hope to achieve with this publication? Simple.
What is your
yeah, nicely played. So for me, you want to have something where this is going to be 500 pages, so it's going to be one target audience wants the serious stuff. They want to know people have done their homework. They want to get a deep dive, as you say. So you've got some credibility so that people can actually see this as achievable. And then there's another bit where you're going to be communicating really high level. It may be one paragraph, it may be a blog, it may be any number of things where, of course, they're not going to read 500 pages, but they can see that a huge amount of effort's gone into it. They can see there's a broad range of people. They can see and hear new voices, and that ultimately you want people to think you could actually achieve in the world an extra billion people covered. It's ambitious, but you could actually do it if you follow through on what you're going to hear in this book.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
Who do you hope to influence?
Well, I think it's going to be a range of key stakeholders who will need to sort of work together. I don't think it's just policy or just the regulators or just the private industry. I think it's getting to, as you're saying, getting to the next billion, let's say, customers in developing markets for pensions. Will require, I guess it'll require, work at each of these levels. So you will need, let's say, the policymakers to come forward and step forward with some sensible policy frameworks and responses. But equally, you will need a good regulatory response and a good business response. But I think around all of this, there are going to be other stakeholders like the media, for instance, which can play an extremely important role in just building policy and political consensus in this area.
And then the final thing, which you may actually just have answered, what's the one thing you'd love to see happen as a result of this publication?
Well, I think even if we can land up with one country which can implement some of the stuff really nicely and get everything right, it could be a small country. But if we can end up with even one country which sort of shows the way, and I think if we can achieve actual implementation of some of the core principles and strategies and ideas that will emerge from this, even in one country, which can then be replicated, I think that'll be a great outcome.
Yeah. I'm ambitious. The one thing would be 1 billion. So no pressure.
Inshallah.